and at the whole Zoom thing. So I want to have as much coaching as possible just so I can get better. Yeah, so after, I would love to hear from you. How many of you guys, when you got done with our phase 1 of Blonde Authority, felt a little bit, I would just love, type a Y in your chat box if you felt a little bit overloaded with some information. Like, wow, that was a lot. Good. Yeah, and how many of you have ever been to a class and you're like, well, that's a really cool technique, but I wonder if she actually does that in the salon? Give me a Y if you've experienced that before, where you've seen it, either whether it's on video or it's something that you're like, I don't know if she's doing that, or if she's just showing it. Yeah, and I've definitely experienced that too. I've been in salon programs where I'm like, this seems really cool and a really great thing to teach, but I'm just curious how often they're actually doing this on their clients. And so today I was thinking back and forth, like, what cool technique have I learned that I could share with them? And then I just thought, you know what, I'm going to give them a balayage that I do every day in the salon. So this is like my bread and butter balayage, and I'm just going to walk you through it step by step and just show you this one particular technique. It's a great way to make somebody blonde quickly. And it's also a really great way to stay organized. Have you ever started a balayage and you're like, where do I go from here? Has that ever happened to you? Give me a thumbs up if that's happened to you before. Yeah. And so and we all know when our clients come back, we're going to have everybody wanting to come in all at the same time, and we're going to need some fast techniques. Give me a Y if you agree with that. Yeah. So, are you ready to learn something that is salonable and fast? Yeah? Okay, cool, good. So while I do this, feel free to unmute yourself if you have any questions. This is Erica. No, it's not. It's Ellie. And these are my other girls. Do you remember them from Blonde Authority? I just thought I would bring them for you guys just so you could say hello to your old friends. Okay.
Hi, friends.
Hi, friends. I love it. Yes. All right. So with that being said, this technique, it only needs one clip. How many clips? Go ahead and type in the chat box. How many clips do we need? Yep, one. Good. And then here, can you guys see this okay? Let me bring this a little bit for closer. Can you see those head forms okay? Yeah? Okay, so here's a side profile. I'm going to just outline this a little bit better for you so you can see it. Yeah? Is that better?
Perfect.
Okay, good. And then here's our back profile.
Squeaky pen.
Right? Okay, so give me a Y or an N for no if you remember when we kind of talked about head form in phase 1, and we talked about the horizontal breakdown, so areas of the head. Yes, okay, cool. So who wants to share with me, if I was going to break these 3 areas up, this bottom part, type in that chat box. What area is this? Good, it's the nape. Good job. Gold star for Sarah. Nape of the neck. Okay, so we have the nape, and then right here, do we remember what this part is? It rhymes with ack. Type that in.
I can't spell occipital.
Okay, so here's the nape. This is an area. Okay, so our occipital bone is here, and in between the occipital bone and the parietal ridge, we have the back section, yeah? So the nape, the back, and then what's right here?
The crown.
The crown, good. Okay, good. All right, so, and feel free to unmute yourselves if that's easier. Good job, Kimberly. I love it. Okay, so if we look at it from here, we have, I'm I'm always not that great at drawing this. So I'm just gonna give you that. Okay, so we have the nape, the back, and then we have the top and the sides, right? So here's our crown, back, nape, top, sides. And I'm not gonna label it because here's the reason why. I'm gonna actually be drawing in my balayage pieces as we go. Is that okay? But I like to show you this because this technique, it's really sticking with this horizontal breakdown. So we start out in the sides, and then we just move our way to the top, and then we go to this back section, nape, back, crown. And it's super simple. The nape, back, crown is all horizontal sections. Are you guys ready? Good. Okay, I'm gonna push this back and bring my girl here for you to see. And then I'm gonna move her head. So here is Ellie, and she has a side part. Give me a thumbs up if you have lots of clients with side parts. Yep, good. Okay, so she has a side part. So we're gonna work with that. What that means is that when they have a heavier side right here, yes, on this heavy side, they're gonna require a lot more color. The reason why they're gonna require a little bit more color is because this side is a little bit deeper. There's gonna be more hair. This lighter side, this hat is a little bit more shallow. So you're gonna work with a little bit less sections on that lighter side because it's more shallow, there's less hair. So you have all this extra hair that's laying over the top. And so if we don't add that extra color, you're gonna lose the highlights. So we just have to keep that in mind when we're working. We're working with how many clips? Do you guys remember? 1, yes, you are correct. And our first section that we're gonna start out, and I'm not even gonna pre-section it, I just wanted to show you this so that you can have an idea of how we're working. But my very first section is just a diagonal back. And do you guys remember when we talked about diagonal backs versus diagonal forward? So if I have a diagonal back section, if I'm holding my comb up here and I place a marble on top, where does the marble roll back to? Yep, the back of the head. I can all see you guys talking. Good. Okay, so the marble's going to roll to the back of the head, and that's how I always know that it's diagonal back. And so really with this balayage, we're just going to be putting together pieces of the puzzle. And I'm going to show you each section as we go. And we'll talk about all those extra fun things. So here is my first section, and I'm actually, look, it's already a triangle. So I don't need to take a triangle because this is my first piece. And do you remember when we talked about when I balayage, how many brushes do I have with me at my station? 2. What brush? I have 1 for what? Do you remember? Go ahead and take
one for mixing and 1 for applying.
Yes, you are correct. We have 1 that I use to just load this paddle up with. This brush, it doesn't so much matter if it's getting nice and clean. And then I have my brush that I paint with, and this stays clean the whole time. And so I'm going to, can you see this okay? Okay.
Yep.
And feel free to tell me if I need to move. All right. So I'm just going to show you this really quick so that you can see the amount of product that I load up. It's quite a bit. See from that side how thick that is? So why do you think I keep it that thick? Do you remember what we do? Are we pressing this in, or what are we doing when we balayage?
Laying it on.
Yeah, we're just, we're dropping it off, right? So we're just going to, I'm trying to think about the best way. Let me try something really quick, guys. I think I could have done that in a lot easier of a way now that I just struggled. Okay. There, can you see that better?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, good. So my elevation is at 45 degrees below the 90. So I still have it elevated a little bit because I need that softness. Who can share with me, what does elevation create again? Go ahead and type it in your, Yep, go ahead and type it in that chat box or unmute yourself and share with me. What does elevation create?
Depth.
Okay, good. So remember when we kind of talked about hair cutting, if I hold the hair straight down and I cut it, do I get a blunt line or do I get a soft line?
Blunt.
Blunt, yeah. And then what happens when I lift the hair up and I elevate it and I cut it? What happens to that line?
Soft.
It gets softer, right? Okay, so the same thing with balayage. So elevation is going to create softness in our balayage. I'm going to tuck this in because I don't want to ruin my new Eagles shirt. Okay, so now that I just created my first diagonal back section, I'm just going to move her head so that I can see it. But my next section, I'll show you in a minute, is just going to be horizontal. So I just take a horizontal line right here. Okay, so here is my horizontal line. You guys see that? And then from there, I'm just gonna take a triangle. So I'm just basically making pieces of the puzzle. So I did a diagonal back, and then I'm taking a horizontal triangle right here. And then my next section is gonna be, what do you think it's gonna be? Is it gonna be horizontal or diagonal back?
Diagonal back.
Yeah, diagonal back, because now we're building that puzzle piece all the way till we get to the money piece. So I'll show you as we get there. So we have 45 degrees below because elevation creates softness. So if I had a client that she is transitioning from a full head of highlights and with foiled highlights, and she's coming in and she wants to have something that's similar, but maybe a little bit softer, a little bit easier on the grow out, lowering your elevation is going to help with that because the highlights are going to be really noticeable. You're going to see that line a little bit more. If you have really high elevation, so if we lift the hair up really high, then now our line is going to be a lot softer. So our grow out line is going to be a little bit less harsh. So just keep that in mind. If you have a client that they come in every 6 months or twice a year to get their hair colored, then having a little bit of a higher elevation is going to help with her maintenance. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just place that next section onto and then I'm just going to take a diagonal back. So now if you can see, this is where really as hairdressers, we're just using our artistry. So I'm right here along her hairline now. I can see, do you guys see that little corner right here? Give me a thumbs up if you can see the corner. Good, okay, so here's my corner. I'm gonna just take a diagonal back line right here along that corner. And I'm gonna drop that out, and that's gonna be my next piece that I paint. So this is it feels like a little bit of a free-for-all, but really if we go back to our principles and our horizontal breakdown, and we're just using these lines to just work around the head. Very similar to, if you think about, have you guys ever seen a dome house or a dome roof? How they just work with triangles all the way around? Yeah. Okay, so here is my next piece right here. And typically, I'd be standing behind her, and that would keep the hair out of her face. But I want you to see me paint. So the hair is going to be right here in her face. But we all know the reason why, yeah? Okay, give me a thumbs up if you're okay with the color being in her face. Okay, cool. Because I would rather you see it than have her be comfortable, because she really doesn't care. Okay, good. So now I'm just going to be taking my brush, remember, and here's a little hot tip. When we load the board, make sure that we're loading the board all in the same direction. So if you look at my lightener, do you see how it's all just horizontally placed on the board? And then now I'm taking it, do you remember how we pinch it? So we're gonna put the board in between our thumb and our pointer finger, and then we secure it with our ring finger and our pinky. That way we can pinch the pieces with our pointer finger and our thumb. And so I'm gonna grab this piece so that I can pinch, and I'm holding my board down mainly so that you can see, and grabbing just enough. And let's talk about that surface painting. Let's go back to that. So do you see how much product I have on my brush? And the reason why is because we're dropping it off. Now, a hot tip, do you remember where we wanted to hold the brush when we're dropping that color off? Okay, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Up.
Yeah, up. So
Up.
am I holding the brush up here, or am I holding the brush back here?
On the tail end,
Yeah, on the tail end. Why am I holding it on the tail end?
so that you can sweep.
Yeah, so that we can sweep. Because when we hold the brush more on the tail end, then we're actually able to drop that color off with a little bit more control. Once we start holding it, and my hand, I'm guilty of this as a colorist, I tend to, when I start balayaging, I tend to just want to creep up here because that's what I'm used to. I want to have control. But when I have control, what I end up doing is losing control by pressing that color in, and then you end up with uneven saturation. So we're holding it back and just dropping this all the way off. See, if we hold it back, then we are able to keep that consistent saturation. So now, as you can see, I've dropped my elevation entirely, and I'm just finishing painting that onto the surface. And so I started to secure my brush. Do you see how my fingers are now? As I'm painting it onto the surface, it's just a nice way to secure your brush. So you have, I'm working more with my elbow than I am with my wrist. So when I'm moving my elbow, I'm able to really just drop that color off. Versus with my wrist, I start pushing it in. All right, so see how let's take a look at my board. I pulled all my color from the same side of the board. Why do you think I did that?
So you can lay the hair on the board.
Yeah, so I can lay the hair on the board without getting any board lines. So see, look, I'm just gonna sneak that hair right onto the dry side of my board, and then I'm gonna use the leftover product to saturate. And we are good to go. Okay, so, oh, come on. I had one little hair stuck and it went zoop. Okay, so now that we have just done that, I'm gonna bring her back over and just take another horizontal section. So sometimes with this balayage, like this horizontal section is pretty large, and you'll see that in a second. Okay, so this horizontal section is pretty large. Do you see that? So with that, I'm gonna take two pieces, 1, 2. And notice I'm using classic V points of light for the whole entire balayage. Do we remember, let's talk about those V's. So what happens, what are the rules with our V's? What happens the wider the triangle, where do we see the most amount of lightness?
On the edges.
Yeah, so okay, so when we have a really, think about this. When if I took this whole section and made this my triangle, I'm gonna paint, and I had a classic V point of light, my highlight is gonna live here, and then my other highlight is gonna live way over here.
There.
But where is it fully gonna be saturated?
The ends.
Yep, on the ends. Okay, so if it's fully saturated all the way on the ends, then where do I see the most amount of lightness? Do I see it on the top, or do I see it more on the ends?
On the ends.
Yeah, on the ends. So the wider our triangle, the more lightness we see where?
On the ends.
Yeah, on the ends. Good, good, good. Okay, so what if I had a client and she came in and she wanted to see tons of highlights all over from top to bottom? She wanted a more even distribution of light. She didn't want to see like the heavier end highlights. What could I do with my triangles?
Make them smaller.
Yeah, make them smaller. So the smaller our triangle, the more even distribution of light from top to bottom. The wider our triangle, the more lightness we're gonna see towards the end. All right, come on, get on there. This is fun. I'm getting closer and closer to my computer. All right. So we're just dropping that right off. I really like this technique because once you get going, you just kind of find a flow. And you're like, all right, so my next section is going to be horizontal. My next section is going to be diagonal. And you just work your way like that all the way up till you get to the very top.
That's kind of how I do with my highlight placement.
Good, yeah. With your foil placement?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's actually, I kind of want to try that now. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and place that right onto my board and drop it off. And then I would, if this was a real client, I would paint one more piece right here. But for time's sake, I wanna move forward. Is that okay? Give me a thumbs up if that's cool. Good, okay. I'm just so glad to be here. I miss seeing all of your faces. All right, so look, as we get towards the hairline now, I'm gonna grab what piece do we call this?
The money piece.
Yeah, the money piece, yes. So I just wanna make sure to emphasize, like right now what we're seeing is a lot of girls are doing, and like Megan's hair is the perfect example of that. And I'm just like, here we are quarantined and look at how cute you are. What the heck?
Right?
There's always one that's just always so cute. Okay, so, and it's never me. I'm always the one with the ponytail. All right, so what we're gonna do is we wanna make sure to have this money piece, but what we're seeing a lot of is the longer hair clients, they're blow drying it forward and then curling and styling out. So what that means is if we just do a little tiny money piece right here, this hair that is being directionally blow dried forward, it's just gonna cover it right up. And what's really in style right now is a heavier highlight around the face, yes, and on the hairline. Almost like, and it's starting to look almost more chunky, like you're starting to see like that big, bold piece. And so we just have to make sure that as we're working our way towards the top, that we have enough highlight that whatever gets blown dried forward and styled out doesn't get completely covered up. If you're with me, type a Y.
Woo.
Okay, cool. So, oh, who just hopped off? Bye, Danny. All right. So there we go. So here's my next money piece. And it's just basically like a little triangle. And we're gonna paint that piece. Because I want you to see me paint it, I'm gonna just leave it in her hair. But if I were to do this on my client, my triangle would be living like more over here. Everything would be just kind of pulling off of her face and away from her face. So I'm gonna show you if we were to elevate it higher than 45 degrees. Are you guys cool with that?
Let me just ask one question, because I always struggle with where the hair lays when it's processing. So like if you're going to put it on here and have it lay forward just for our purposes, if it was a real person, it would be off of her face, but then doesn't that affect where the points of light are?
Yeah.
Like, I always wonder in the front how it's going to actually lay. Or
Okay,
look.
Let me show you that real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so if this was my actual client, I would be elevating her. Let's see. Okay, so I would be elevating her up here because I want her to see these highlights living here. And so we would elevate this up high, and then we're just gonna drop off. And you see, I still have I'm still just dropping off. And then I'm gonna do my next point of light here. And if you wanted to, depending on how heavy her highlight is, this is where you can really customize it. You can even do a third little point of light. It doesn't have to necessarily be a classic V right here along her hairline. You see how I just painted a whole bunch of little highlights right there? And then as I'm bringing her down, now I'm gonna lower her elevation. And do you guys remember us really talking about tension and the importance of tension with balayaging in phase 1? So when we're talking about tension, we just really have to make sure that we keep this hair like a wall, because right now it's like a curtain that we're trying to paint because it's a soft texture and a soft surface. So our tension keeps it strong like a wall so that we can just brush that paint right onto it. So now I'm going to grab my product, and as I just maintain my tension right here, I'm going to paint my next little top piece. So I'm almost like making a 3D triangle and then brushing this right off onto her hair. And then see, that's where her hair would lay. Does that help answer that question for you? Yeah, good. Okay, cool. So since you guys can see this, okay, I might stick to this side. And so my next piece, I'm just working with all this hair that's gonna live underneath here, that I want to be nice and bright around her hairline. So my next piece, if you look, I'll show you, I'll take her off. You can see that there's like the start of another little triangle. You guys see that? How it's kind of curved right here. Now here's what I'm just gonna tell you this, hairdresser to hairdresser, it doesn't have to be a perfect point. It doesn't have to be this perfectly pointed triangle. We're just grabbing our sections and painting. So it's not something to overthink. But I'm looking right here at her and I'm like, okay, that looks like that's gonna make a good little triangle. So I'm just gonna grab that, taking a diagonal back. It's just a smaller diagonal back, but I'm still working with those same lines to get my triangle. So I'm gonna take a little diagonal back section right here, and I'm gonna paint her hair. And when I start to lose that triangle, that's when I go into my horizontal lines. So I'm just grabbing this piece and reloading my board. And we're just gonna make sure to get rid of all the loose hair that you get off of your board so it doesn't accidentally get attached to your brush. And I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna just hold her hair up and balayage another little section here. And then we're gonna go all the way to the end of that point. All right, and now as I'm going to drop my elevation, so now because I elevated her hair so high, I know these highlights are gonna be very soft. And that's why I'm able to just place them like that, so willy-nilly. And now I'm going to go ahead and drop my elevation just so slightly while I keep my tension and paint that last piece of the section so that I still have, and I want you guys to see this, so I still have my classic V. So we're really just kind of working all the way up on the top and sides. We're just kind of blending those together as we paint, just using our knowledge with how the hair naturally falls, how our client's gonna style it. Now, if I had a client that she didn't brush her hair forward and blow dry it, let's just say I had a client that was like every day back off of her face, I would want to do the same thing that I did with these last two pieces, how I pulled it straight up and painted along her hairline. I would want to do the same thing on the sides, because that's going to help when she pulls her hair back, she's not going to have a weird shadow. And so, and you can see like my hair is a perfect example. Now it almost looks highlighted, but then when I pull it back, I have all that dark because the hairline wasn't painted. And so, and I think that that happens a lot with our clients where they really like it, but then the second they go to the gym, has that ever happened before, where you have a client that they're like, well, I really like it, but then when I work out, and I don't know why they care so much, honestly, like you're working out, but they do. And so we have to, you know, they're paying us, so we have to make sure that even their gym hair looks good. And so just keeping that when they pull their hair back or up out of their face, we want to make sure, and that's why having a consultation before color is so important, and just asking the simple questions like, hey, how do you wear your hair? How do you style your hair every day? Do you pull it back off of your face? Because that's going to change how we paint. If you're with me, say, woohoo.
Woo!
YFL, WYFL. I don't know what that means. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to move on to my next section. So now we're having a little bit of choices, and this is where you get to be creative as a hairstylist. So for her, I feel like her money pieces are good. If I wanted to see way more going on around her face, this is when I would actually start really breaking it up. And I would take my triangle section would be, I'm going to point her down. My triangle section would be here and then here, but I don't. I'm okay with where she's at, and I want to make it quick and simple for her. And so I'm okay with this being a little bit more lived in. So if you have a client that really wants to see it bright around her face, and then this whole top area be a little more lived in, this is when you have just placed in all of those hairline highlights, and now you can just start taking horizontal sections. So I would take a horizontal section right here, and I would paint a couple triangles, and then my last horizontal section would be right around her part. So if you have that client, so then my last would be a triangle here, triangle here, triangle here. And I really want to show you this section because it's really cool. But if you have that client that when you've foiled her hair for the first 10 years of your career because you've been doing her hair that long, and she's like that foil client that goes in the mirror and goes like this. Do you know who I'm talking about? To make sure the highlights are nice and close. Okay, so if we have that client, then this is going to be the perfect transition to balayage for her, because we're still able to give her those highlights that are nice and close. So what we're going to do, can you see this okay? This part right here. So I'm just going to show you that piece. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take a nice little triangle section, and if she's a really heavy foil, you can take an even smaller triangle than this. But if she's just a medium foil, then this is perfectly fine. And we're going to elevate it according to her plane of the head. So if I elevate it only like 45, it's going to be living on top of the rest of this hair. You're going to smush it. So we do need to elevate it a little bit higher because we're working now on the planes of the head. Okay, good. So I'm just going to take this piece and I'm going to paint right here my triangle, and then on the other side I'm going to paint this triangle. So we're just dropping this color right off onto the hair. And just so you guys know what product I'm using Flash Lift with Bonder inside, because it's my favorite. I love how it lightens the hair, and it gets it really, really light, but it keeps it very, very healthy. So it has a really good blend of both maintaining the integrity of the hair as well as getting the job done.
You will explain the WYFL.
With you for like, aw, that's so sweet. Okay, so.
Love it.
No, isn't that sweet? Okay, so here is my triangle piece on the part line. And all we would do is just like similar to a foil, yes? So you can see she's got her triangle piece here and she has her triangle piece here. And so I would make sure to give a little bit of a space in between so she doesn't have a big chunk. And then I would do another little triangle all the way till we get to that part where her hair starts to fall back into the crown into a different natural falling position. And so here's how I explain it to these clients, my foil clients, is I can still give you these same highlights, but with a foil along the part line, these are what your highlights look like. And so as they grow out, you get that instant harsh line of demarcation. So what we are doing by balayaging is I can customize those highlights so that they're staggered. And so now look, as that grows out, how much softer that is. And so we're just giving them a little bit of a more customized, oh, how cute, okay. And so with this side, I'm just gonna show you one piece so that you can see it. And then I will let you guys go about your day.
No,
I know, right? Okay, hold on.
I need human interaction.
Right? Okay, I feel you with that. I need adult interaction. I'm sorry. Okay, I think Hugo and I both, you know, we actually paid our 10-year-old to babysit upstairs for an hour. It was great. I mean, she was just upstairs with them so she could come get us anytime, but it worked. She got them to bed. I couldn't believe it. All right, so
That's crazy.
I know. Okay, so now if you look here, and I'm gonna have to show you when I'm done so that you can really visually see it, but I am gonna show you this last piece. This is fun, trying to figure out how to, it's like a little dance. All right, there we go. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. And so her head is tilted to the side. And so my elevation is a little bit different only because of the way that her head is tilted. And now I'm just dropping this piece off right here. You guys, I can hear my kids in the background. They, every single day, it's like 60 degrees outside and they put their bathing suits on and spray each other with the hose for fun.
Danny and I had a water balloon fight yesterday. I took a birthday cake down to her house
and
a balloon, and the kids across the neighbor kids came over and we totally had a water balloon fight. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so fun. Okay, cool. So now here, look what you can see. Do you see how those V's are brick laid? So those triangles are brick laid. Yeah, so what you're doing with the top section is we're just bricklaying those so that they're off. And then in the back, I'm just gonna show you one section in the back so that and then we'll be good to go. But we're working with, I'm just here, Nate, back and sides. Where'd that black pen? Okay, cool. So this is what we're gonna do. Classic V point of light. And then here we're gonna bricklay. 1, 2, 3. And then with the crown, we're gonna do the same thing. So you're literally just taking horizontal sections all the way up. In the nape, you really shouldn't need to take more than one section. And then the back, you might take 2. And then crown, you just drop out that whole crown and you have taken your whole section. So what this looks like on a head is really just diagonal, horizontal, diagonal, horizontal. As we get up here, we're doing the same thing all the way until we get up to the top. How do you guys feel? Good?
Woo woo!
Did you learn something? Give me a thumbs up.
Of course.
Yes.
All right, good. All right, so before we go, I'd love to hear, just take like 30 seconds and type in your chat box, what was your favorite thing that you learned from this 1 hour? I love it. And you can feel free to send it anytime. Good. Aww. The money piece, I love it. When we get back to work, we'll be keeping it simple. Yes. So it's so true. I think when we get back to work, we're going to have to come up with like, what can we get in and out quickly? A big thing that we've been doing and talking a lot about is setting up virtual consultations with our clients. So that's what we have been just starting to set up. And that way we're all prepared and taking notes. And, you know, it's kind of cool because a lot of celebrity stylists have already been doing this. Their clients, when they come in, they don't have time to sit and do a really long consultation. So before their client even gets in the door, they know what they're doing so they can just get started. So I'm actually really excited about this. I think it's going to be the new way, hopefully forever, so that we can get more clients in, start making more money, and just setting them up for success before they even walk in the door.
That's what we're planning on doing.
Good. Yes.
All of us are getting a list of clients that will be in, and we will
We'll be like, what have you done to your hair since I haven't seen you?
Yep.
How many boxes?
Oh my gosh. My own mother is like, she lives 5 hours from me. So I mean, and she ordered color online. I'm like, and she's not even seeing anybody, but you know, everybody has to do what they have to do to take care of themselves. So I get it. And I think that the best thing that we can do as hairstylists is just, you know, when our clients are able to get back in the door, just give them tons of grace and help them the best way that we can. So
yeah.
I'm really grateful that we got to do this, and I would love to do another one, and then hopefully we'll see you in August.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Can't
Megan.
wait.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
Yeah, of course. And feel free
Can the rest of
thank
us
you.
stay on here and say hi to each other?
of course.
No.
I have kids screaming in the backyard, so but I am not gonna.
It's the afternoon there. See, we're getting dinner ready at my house.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So
It's the afternoon there.
I'll move. I'll change. How about Sarah? I'm gonna make you the new host, and then
Okay.
I'll leave the meeting and I won't end it. That way you can stay.
Okay.
On. Yeah. No problem.
Yay!
Thank
Yeah,
you,
absolutely. Okay.
Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks, Megan.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll see you guys later. Have a great rest of your spring.
You
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 too.
too. Love you.
All right. Bye.
Bye.